All right, all right. Hello, world. Peace and blessings to everyone. Welcome to the show, Conversations with Core and Tafari. We're excited to be on here today. And Corey, did you want to introduce yourself or say
Yeah,
anything?
good morning, everybody.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's Corey here, KWK with Tafari. Yes. Um, we're still in the top of the year, folks. We're still here, top of the year. Um, are the tracks rusty or are they smooth enough as the train moves forward into 2026 for everybody, right? So you know, my partner, co-host, Brain Trust. Um, we have a good title. We got a good topic for you today, and it's kind of two in one. They all work together, but it's two in one. What's the title?
The title is Are You Avoiding the Responsibilities of Your Gifts?
Hmm, that's a heavy question.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
a heavy question. Now we're gonna give you some good information, some feedback. We're just gonna really talk amongst ourselves, if you will, folks. If you got any questions, you can always chime in and leave us some questions as well. But we're gonna talk about in conjunction with that the founder operating system, right? So we are as individuals, we're operating systems, right? So anything else that's an operating system is designed after who we are built and designed after, right?
Mm.
Before that, I should say. So we are an operating system, but as founders, as small business owners, as entrepreneurs, as CEOs, right? The different titles for different reasons. There is a system that goes with each one of those levels of us, right? And so, Tafari, what's your thoughts on? Let's talk about it. Let's get into avoiding the responsibilities of your gifts. What does that even mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. It made me think about kind of how we got to this topic to begin with, because we were talking about how our gifts don't always make it don't always make it in the spaces they need to. Um our gifts don't always make it into the house like they can be for everybody else except for the people closest to us. Our gifts may, sometimes we hoard our gifts and we keep them to ourselves and we don't seek to share them out for whatever reason. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's, hey, the timing isn't right. And then sometimes it comes down to, hey, I don't want to. I don't want to carry the responsibilities or the criticisms that may come with this gift that I have. So you know what? I'm not going to do anything with it. And so, that's where it posed the question like why what what um responsibilities do we avoid um with the gifts that we're given? And so, Corey, my question to you, as we, seek to be transparent up here, because it's different seasons. Sometimes you here, sometimes you there. And some of your different seasons on your entrepreneurial journey, has there been a time where you may have found yourself avoiding the responsibilities that came with the gifts that you possess? And then, like, how did you work through that?
Hmm. Avoiding the responsibilities of my gifts. I can't say that I've intentionally avoided them.
Mm-hmm.
What I can say is what I think, because I go hard in everything that I pretty much do.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm choosing to do that a lot of times, there might be, I might be missing a part of my gift or a gift that I really should be utilizing. So think about it like this. It's like you giving attention to something that you don't really need to give attention to, and
Mm-hmm.
forsaking giving the attention to where else it needs to go, but you're not really discerning through that because you're not really paying attention, right? And so those two words, paying attention, is heavy. It's not necessarily being attentive and right?
Mm-hmm.
Paying attention is more what you're paying meaning paying for. You got to give your attention to something. And
Yeah,
so
an
and
investment.
yeah, right? And so one of the things that I always do for me, look, when challenges come,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of just lean into it. When obstacles get in the way, I kind of just lean into it. I'm kind of just I'm built in that way. Um, and when I do find that there's a responsibility factor behind it, I have to kind of walk around it, and I have to understand what it is it's trying to tell me, what it is that I need to pay a little more attention to. And how do I work through that? I do a lot of inner reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I take my inner standing walk so I can understand,
Mm-hmm.
then I can overstand, right? Um, I read, I write, pray, meditate, and I just kind of work through it. And you know, there's a lot of secret sauce to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for the most part, I always bring it back to me.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you um have accountability with the responsibility. And with talking with some of my clients, I find that it's not that they're lacking in intelligence or that they're lacking in opportunities, but it's this struggle of let me, fully accept everything that comes with what I've been gifted, the good and the bad. And sometimes, we want comfort so much. So when we talk about is entrepreneurship a good fit for you, you'll know it's a good fit with your level and capacity of discomfort. Um, as you grow, as anything grows, there's a certain point where things become uncomfortable. And I think within that space, if you can navigate and endure and know how to create a process through that, you can enjoy the fruit of the harvest that's on the other side of it. The experience, the positive, I won't say positive, but the bountiful results of um, being, of sustaining through that. And so when you talk about, how you um, essentially renew your mind, I was just telling a client that the other day, like, this is not a Monday through Friday thing. I think society has programmed us to say, okay, this is the system you operate Monday through Friday. You give me your all on the weekend, you can take your mental breaks. And entrepreneurship, you own every day, not just for the sake of the um, operations of your business. Yes, but in addition to that, it's also because you are your brand. You are the business. And so you the business,
You the
So
business.
because
You the
you the
business.
business,
Business.
you have to be invested into protecting what comes in and what's allowed access in and what goes out of your mentality. Because if you're not protected, guarded, and intentional with that space, any and everything is coming in there. When any and everything is coming into how you think, your actions and how you speak is going to reflect that. And so it goes back to, it's not necessarily, with um the gifts component, but more so how are you being a steward of that. And so, you know, in this time we're going to talk about the personal operating system. What system have you established to say, okay, this is the strategy that works best for me in these situations. This is what I've seen a return on when I have implemented these. I've tested and tried these strategies. They work. I know it. I got to do it every time. So, like, for example, avoiding the responsibilities of my gifts, I paid attention, invested into attending to the fact that if I'm overwhelmed about operating in my gift on a particular project or assignment, I'll sit there and I'll get to scrolling. Not only will I get to scrolling, I'll get to do any and everything else. I'll sweep, mop, dust, anything else I can do
Distraction.
to avoid digging
Distraction.
digging into what I really need to be digging into. Right? Because when I show up, I'm locked in. And so because of that, I'm like, all right, wrap my mind around locking in. I gotta lock in. We gotta get ready to lock in. Let's go. But then I'm like, ooh, let me stay over here for a couple of hours and then I'll be ready. Unconsciously and consciously, right? So then I'm like, I gotta throw my phone across the bed and be like, okay, we're gonna get focused now. It's just time to operate with the gifts now. Turn it on. And what that system looks like for me is what I realize is something has to be in place to calm me before I start getting the machine running at a good stuff speed, right? And so whether that's me scrolling or hey, just taking the time to sit down with the kids and watch a movie, but it has to be something that kind of calms me before the storm, I would say. And it's a
Got
good storm, but before the storm. So I think, when it comes to entrepreneurship, you got to understand what is your personal system that's effective and what is ineffective so that you know when it starts to show itself, oh, okay, let me go ahead and put in the other part of this system to help make sure that one can stay where it needs to stay. What's your
you.
thoughts?
There's a couple of things to think about that, and that's great, and I appreciate you sharing that because I'm sure there's people that can identify with that, right? I identify with that too. I'm a hands-on person, so if fixing things and moving things and reorganizing things, sometimes that just gives me relief, um, I guess, right? I'm,
Right?
I'm so used to it by now that I don't even know what it's doing, but it's doing something other than having my brain going crazy, right?
Yes.
And so, I think the first thing to think about is as individuals, business owners especially, is the fact that what you plant is not what's going to grow,
Mm,
right? And so,
yes.
what I mean by
What
that
place
is
grow?
whatever seed is planted, that's not what's going to grow. The seed is not going to grow. The seed turns into a plant, whatever that plant is. It's no
Mm-hmm.
longer a seed in order for it to grow into something. So knowing that we are planting seeds for it to grow into something, and so that's where we have to take care of it. We have to till the soil. We got to make sure we're planting in good soil. We got to understand the season of when that seed should be planted, and if that plant can maintain through those seasons and when it's time to harvest it. That's one thought process. The next one is, when I get into a conundrum of situations, it's more I ask myself, um, what is the situation trying to teach me that I don't know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, so there's moments where you got to de-stress. And so, walk away from it, get back at it, and then
Mm-hmm.
go at it and figure it out. Right. So allow the situation to teach you what you don't know. Right. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's another saying that, that pops up is when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Mm.
Right. And when
Yeah,
the
that's a good
student is
one.
ready, the teacher will disappear. So things, and the teacher is not necessarily It doesn't have to be an individual. It can be, but it can be a situation. It can be the teacher could be anything, a song, and you heard the song 1,000 times, but for some reason this verse stands out to you. It could be a show. It could be anything out in the world that you know that you notice, you feel a thought comes, maybe a clarifying thought, maybe just a question that you never even thought of, right? And
Mhm.
so you have to be able to be in tune to receive those messages,
Mhm.
and and then be able to um, draft it into something that's usable for you, so you can apply it and implement it within yourself and the business, right? And
Mhm.
so that's the key to really, I guess, identifying certain ailments of how we think and process things, right? And everybody has their own processing system, obviously. It's what we're talking about here. Um, but overthinking, over planning, hopping around from one resource to the next and not completing it, you know,
Mhm.
one of the details, because I'm a technology guy too. One of the data points out there is how many people purchase software for their business,
Mm.
and this they're excited in the beginning, and then all of a sudden they fall away, right? And you'd be surprised how many people are still paying for software and they don't even realize that it's auto draft out of their account. I'm talking about on a small amount,
Mhm.
7.99, 8.99.
Mhm.
You could really skip past those times. You get a big bump, 20, 30, 40 and up. You might be like, what's that charge coming out every month? So that's called tool hopping, right? When you hopping from tool to
Mm.
tool, not taking the time to learn, because
Yes.
learning could be an issue,
Listen,
right?
I just learned. I had I had Squarespace and I had Kit, and I did not have time. I had last year I wrote a book, and I was trying to get it platform set up where I could sell it. And Kit was the easiest for me to get a hold of, but I already had Squarespace, right? But I added Kit because that was the easiest learning curve for me. And about half a year later, I realized the same thing I had on Kit to do this, I had it on Squarespace the whole time. And so because I took the time to learn this tool, I was able to cut back on the expense. I don't need Kit anymore because I can set it up on Squarespace.
Right.
So, with having these strategies and learning this stuff about yourself and taking the time to learn what you need to learn can also help financially. Not just your time, but also with your finances as well. So I get my little subscription money back.
Premiums. You gotta go freemium first. If it's freemium, then you before you bump up to a premium, then let's go. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Now the idea of tool hopping too, though, is see what you did was you completed something. How
Yeah,
many people hop and don't complete,
that's
right?
true.
Which is something that we go through, right? We always have an idea, but does the plan hold the weight of the idea? Does the idea align with the plan, and vice versa? Because we're idealistic people. There's always ideas coming, and a lot of the times it's not necessarily we think it's our idea. It was just given to us,
Mhm.
and what we do with it, right?
Mhm.
Brainwaves. Um, but a
And a
lot
lot
of times, hmm?
Yeah, folks ain't doing nothing with them ideas. I'm talking
No,
about
well,
whole notebooks worth from years of notebooks worth of ideas. Listen, I got plenty of notebooks, right? So I'll talk about myself first, right?
me
Of
too.
all
Me
these
too.
ideas, like you said, that were given to me, whether it was from something I heard. Listen, I get it. Something I done heard, and I was like, oh, let me write that down. I got a stack. I've been like, I'm gonna go through these notebooks because I got $1 million ideas in these notebooks. And at some point you gotta sit down and stop hopping around and be still.
So I got a
Um,
parking lot. I got a parking lot, and I have a parking garage. No, for real, right? And for my thoughts. these ideas. So I have a parking lot. It's a general parking lot. Yeah, I could park it there until I could get to it, but it's not there forever. Forever.
Mm-hmm.
The parking garage is a little more secured, it's safe, and it's covered from the weather. So and then there's different levels, right? And so different. So I throw my regular thought. Any thought goes into the parking lot, and then I have to drive that bad boy into the parking garage as I see fit until I'm able to get back to it, and that helps me compartmentalize too, so I can get back to that idea.
You know,
Now,
I just want to say real quick, I challenge everyone to look at committing to two ideas, at least 1 to 2 ideas in first quarter, in quarter one. What are 1 or 2 ideas you can commit to that's in one of them journals to following all the way through on it,
well,
whether
let's
it's
let's let's go a little more specific, right?
okay.
Two ideas that seem very big, daunting. BHAG, they call it, big, hairy, audacious goal.
Mm,
What is that? It's almost like heart tremoring. It came to you, you thought about it, you may have written it down physically, maybe you've written it in your mind, in your heart, and
mm-hmm.
you just haven't gotten to it. Something about it is you see you maybe you're blaming a circumstance. Maybe there is a circumstance, but you're not seeing past the circumstance. Maybe it's something fearful. Maybe you need some support. Maybe you need resources, funding, whatever it is. Um, Take Temet's idea and really start to drill down into, well, what if, right? Go to the end of that idea. If
Mm-hmm.
this idea comes to fruition, what
Mm-hmm.
does it look like? What happens? How does it change your life? How does it make you feel? And then work backwards to come up with your steps to get to the end.
That's good. That's good. Cause I remember when one of mine was going live on social media, and I was like, I do not want to do this. And I had to think, what was the benefit for me in doing this? And it was to help people to get to know more about me, get to learn my personality, and, decide for themselves, hey, is this somebody, I can relate to or not? So help filter out and or feed clients. But it was the hardest hump for me to get over was to come from behind the camera because I'm usually a behind the scenes person.
Mm-hmm.
And I know now you might be like, girl, I can't even tell. You seem so natural on camera. But
Mm-hmm.
listen, this was a journey to get to this point. But it started with turning that idea into an action. And
Mm-hmm.
not and then being okay with the responsibility of accepting that not everyone is going to agree or like what I say or do. But again, when it came down to the strategy behind this, I had to think, okay, what am I willing to commit to that aligns, makes me a little uncomfortable, but that still aligns. And I was like, okay, we're going to start off with once a week. Mondays at this time, I'll commit to just starting here. So sometimes that step into the accepting the responsibility of your gift, it doesn't have to be a huge leap. It can be just take a step towards that direction. Build it in a plan where it isn't over planned out, so much so that you stay frozen, but allows you to take one step and then another step and then another step. So I think sometimes we think, well, if I'm going to commit to this, I have to do X, Y, and Z and LMNOP. And
Mm-hmm.
really, it's just like all you needed was just to grab a pencil first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For real. So let's give them some grounded questions for themselves, right?
Okay.
And I'm gonna swing through this so we can get over to the operating systems, right? So a couple of questions that you can ask yourself, right? So even I'm gonna ask myself these questions as I go through it. Which strengths are you underusing or postponing, right? Um What capabilities do you know you have, but you haven't fully stepped into? Right. What role are you uniquely suited for that you keep pushing off? Right.
Mm.
There's a book called E Myth by Michael Gerber.
Oh yeah, I love that
I
book.
recommend that book to everybody. It breaks down the myth of being an entrepreneur because everyone is good. Everyone is a technician, meaning everyone is good at what
Hmm.
they do, but they're not good at running or managing the aspect of the business, and that's totally fine, right? Hence why there's so many different positions in a business, right? Or so many hats, if you will, when it comes to our sole props. So check out that book, E Myth by Michael Gerber. And no, there is no sponsorship. It's just a great book,
Yes.
something that's a great tool, right? A couple other questions. What decision are you delaying that only you can make?
Mm.
Hmm.
Come on
Right.
now.
What are you waiting for? Clarity instead of making a choice. Now that's big right there. Where are you waiting for clarity instead of making a choice, making a decision? Because I'm going to speak on that real quick.
Speak on it.
Waiting for clarity, that means waiting for validation
Hmm.
outside of yourself, outside of seeking um, the information, right? Um, Looking for understanding, seeking understanding, right? Or even studying for yourself in order to make a choice, make a decision. And a lot of times, those decisions are definitely tough decisions sometimes, and sometimes they're not. But again, where are you waiting and why are you waiting for clarity instead of making the choice? You got something you want to talk about on that?
Um, I have seen people go backwards because they have not decided to make a choice. What's interesting though is sometimes they don't realize they have a choice. They keep making these regressing decisions, um, but not understanding that they have the power to make a choice that can change this whole situation completely. So I think it's sometimes questioning, is this a situation where I have the ability to choose something otherwise? And if so, what is it that I desire and why? Um, I take people on what's called the value quest. And on that quest, one of the first things that we do is question your belief system. What are you telling yourself and why? The second thing is understanding, what is it that you truly desire? So, constantly, all throughout the week, no days off, question, what are you choosing to believe and why? And then what is it that you really want? And I think uh, culturally, just in the Black community, sometimes we have not been afforded the privilege to choose. Um, in a lot of situations, we just had to take whatever's given. And I challenge everyone to to question, hey, is this what I really want to accept? Or is it that I see and want something different? And everything though throughout the day, it's all about a choice. We can, be like, okay, I want this to eat. I don't want that to eat. We can do it in that setting. But how does that show up in the business?
Mm-hmm. Because it will show up. Nice thought. Nice thought on that. Um, all right, let's see what else we got here. What keeps resurfacing? Oh no, I skipped one. What responsibility keeps showing up that you haven't claimed yet?
Hmm.
What keeps showing up? What keeps you up at night? That's the question I asked, right? What keeps you up at night? If it keeps you up at night and you're thinking about it constantly, what do you need to do in order to move that needle, move it along? Okay.
Yeah.
What keeps resurfacing in your business, no matter how much strategy you apply? What is working? What is not working? Hopefully, you're doing some annual planning. We'll talk about that in future episodes. Annual planning, times of year planning, the 4 quarters. We're going to talk about the 4 quarters and why the 4 quarters are actually broken up into 4 quarters. More on that. Um, what problem would disappear if you fully trusted your own capabilities? These are heavy questions here, right?
It is.
What part of the business seems to depend on you, but you resist owning? I tell you, a lot of people that I work with, a lot of clients, a lot of people I talk to. It's 2 areas: finance and operations. Don't tell nobody.
Mm.
Tell yourself, right? Um, what are you being asked to step into that you keep circling instead of entering?
Ooh.
What is that gut? What is that
Okay.
intuition telling you? You know what I mean? That thing is knocking. Boom, 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 boom. Open up the door. um, what do you already know? Uh, what do you already know about yourself you meant to lead, but you haven't yet? Right now, we talk. There's this word that can be broken up, but leadership. We'll
Mhm.
talk about that in future episodes because there's a difference between leadership and leading or being a leader. And then where does your business keep asking more of you that you're not giving?
Mm. Mm.
Right. So for every new level, as they say, every new level there's a new devil.
Yep.
Right. But think about it like this: for every level that you go, there's a beginning. A lot
Mm.
of times, I think we miss it where we feel like we get to a level and we think, "Oh, I'm at this level. I'm this." No, every new level there's a new beginning, and then there's an end at that level, and you go to a next level, and there's a new beginning there. So what does that make you? That makes you a student all over again. You got to
Mhm.
learn how to follow before you can lead, and I think that's the most important piece in developing a business, because every day you're a creator. Every day you're creating something, you're managing something, you're making choices or decisions, you're enforcing something, right? And then with that comes losses and wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any
These
thoughts
are
on
good
that?
questions. I mean, these things are heavy. If y'all weren't able to get them, let us know.
Yeah, we're gonna
Because
put
I
out.
think, yeah, these could truly transform you and your business in 2026. If
Yeah,
you take the time to answer some of these questions, you might be unrecognizable.
yeah. And if you got any questions, we'll leave some information in the link below. We'll leave emails, and we'll turn this into a download for you guys so you can have it as well. Okay. Um, but I'm going to jump into the 4 stages that most people move through as founders. Right. So get your pencil and papers ready. Write this down. Identify which one is you. Who do you identify with? The survivor, survival mode. Everything feels urgent. You're reacting every single day, every moment. You're putting out fires constantly. The business lives in your head and on your shoulders. Tension.
Mm.
I got a headache. I can't sleep. Can't eat. I'm thirsty all the time. Right? That's the survivor mode. Right? It is the belief. So Tamet, you just brought that up. What is your belief system, right? So, but that's a belief that if most people don't handle it and they don't get it done, it won't get done. I can't trust anybody else to get it done. I don't have anybody else to help me get it done. I don't have the funding for anybody else to help me get it done. That's survival mode, right? So as business owners, we're just creating another job for ourselves.
Mhm.
Okay. The hustler, right? You're busy all the time. You're always working on something. Progress feels uneven, right? So you just feel like you got to work harder. The harder you work, the better it'll become. It'll quickly click. It'll work itself out. It'll get done, right? It feels like that's your responsibility, right? So it's something to think about. Um, the hustle mode, because I think again, a lot of us identify with being survivors. A lot of us, I think, the survivor mode is when pressure's on, or it's at the end of the day moment where we feel tired and we hustled through the day to get through another day. So now at the end of the day, we're in survivor mode until we turn back on hustler mode the next day, right? The most important thing I think can help people is to think about, and you said it earlier,
Mhm.
along with some of these questions. What is it? Who am I?
Mhm.
What am I willing to do, or choice? What choice am I willing to make that will allow my life to become better?
Mm.
Right? It's that what if scenario. Because I think a lot of times we think we sit in that what if it doesn't work. Well, what if it does work?
That part.
What if it does work? Like, just ask yourself that every single day. What if it does work?
I
I
like
know I
that.
ask myself that all the time. What if this thing really works?
But Corey, sometimes that's where people get scared.
You're supposed to get scared.
How do you get past what if it works? That would be great, but oh my goodness, that's also terrifying. How do you get
Hmm.
past that?
Build you a team,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Build you an advisory board,
True.
right? Because watch this. So as above, so below, right? Life is duality. Nothing is one side is not created without the other. Okay. So what I mean by that is we can sit and talk with people, gossip about people, talk about situations.
Mhm.
We call it the barbecue.
Mm.
Let's call it the barbecue, right?
Mhm.
If you create a barbecue advisory board, meaning you're
Mm.
talking about business decision makings, just with your
Mhm.
closest, who do you have close in your circle with, right? That can help you think through your processes, help you think through your ideas and your thoughts. And they can be an accountability partner for you, or person, or group of people, right? And you can individually connect with them, but it's good to, if you trust them, it's good to say, hey, all you guys are my advisory. You build you a team of advisory. Start there. And then you start to use documentation as your lieutenant, or
Mhm.
your assistant, and document your processes, right? That way, once it gets to a point where you need to delegate, you can delegate in confidence. So somebody could follow the script, and you just got to train them here or there, right? I call it the
Mhm.
SOS: show, observe, and shape method, right? And so to answer your question, yeah, we can't be scared of leading, because that's leading, that's leadership. We can't be scared of seeking out support, right? And
Mhm.
that support a lot of times is outside of who we think should be supporting us. Let's put a disclaimer there. Who you think is going to support you, or who you think is supporting you, a lot of times they're not.
This is
Right?
true. Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so let's dive into the operator. Now, this is where things begin to change when you are the operator. You start looking at things differently, you start absorbing information differently, you start making moves differently, right? And here's some of those questions. Why does this still depend on me? Right? Why do we keep solving the same problems? Why does everything fall apart when I step away? A lot of times you just don't have the proper processes and systems in place, or you don't understand that a certain thing that you do is a process or a system, right? Now, understanding the difference now, systems is what you do for a specific thing all the time. It's repeatable, right? Now, the process in which you do it, that can change, but it very rarely changes, right? So what I mean by that, we get up and we get dressed every day. That's a system. The process is now we could do it backwards. We may not wear the same thing. We may not get changed in the same place, right? So on and so we might. It's a whole bunch of different processes that we can apply. We maybe iron some clothes before we get dressed. Maybe we don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those processes could change, but the system is still you getting up every day to get dressed for the day, right? And then there's tools to use for that. You got your ironing board, you got your lint brushes, you have your
Mm-hmm.
starches, the spray, like so there's different tools that you can use along the way, right? And so just think about what your belief system is and how you're operating within your business, how you're operating within yourself that gets applied to the business. So think about that. And then my favorite piece is the architect. There's a story behind that, but architecture is I love architecture. I've studied architecture, went to school for architecture. Um, but the architect, the designer is how do you design or architect your life, your business? What does it mean? Um, how do you want it to look? How do you want it to feel? Um, how do you want the structure set up for the business? Right? Slowing down, thinking a lot more before acting, right? Seeking counsel before making hard decisions, right?
Absolutely.
You know, um, I mentioned design, but the implementation is super important. We talked earlier about the idea. Having the idea is great, but having an implementation plan for execution is the most important piece because there's no movement without action. And, you know, as I like to say in conversations, bumping your gums is not action, meaning just talking about it is not actions.
Bumping your gums. And doing.
it's, it's just a whole lot of hot air, right? Coming out. But that's not actions. So think about that, right? And look at your patterns. We all have patterns, but look at your patterns. Again, studying thyself and then understanding how the business is affected by your patterns is most important. And you just gotta fight. You just gotta fight through. That's the key. Every day you just gotta fight. You know what I mean? Um,
Can I say something? Because I think people think that there's a way out the fight.
mm,
And it don't matter what you do. Entrepreneurship, not entrepreneurship. You're still gonna have to fight.
gotta fight. It's the fight.
And
It's the fight.
so either you're gonna be fighting to stay poor, fighting to not work, fighting to endure being on a 9 to 5, fighting in entrepreneurship, fighting in singlehood, fighting in marriage, and to stay married. Like there is no way around the fight. So choose your fight. What are you willing to fight for and why? But and you could be fighting to avoid things. Right? That's it.
Eh,
You
speak
working.
on it. Speak on it. What?
You gonna
You
be working
just said
regardless,
you
bro.
just
So
said
you
a
might as
word. You
well
just said a
make sure.
word. You just said a word. Fighting to ignore it.
You might as well make sure it's well worth the fight. That you get in absolutely what you want to get out of the fight. And that's why I chose entrepreneurship. That's why I stopped fighting on this. When they told me on my job, to me, it don't matter what you do, you're not going to make any more money. I was like, oh, this ain't the fight for me no more. Ain't no need for me to exert any energy fighting over here. Because you've made it clear the goal that I want, you're not willing to meet me there. This avenue is not going to meet me there. And so if that's the case, I'm willing to take a risk over here, because if I'm a fight, I'm a fight for what I don't know, all the way, like the possibilities of the unknown versus what I do know as a matter of fact. So sometimes we keep fighting for stuff we already know the results. You keep overindulging in smoking, drinking, overeat. You know the results of these things. It is not going to contribute to you being at your highest self. So why continue to fight for those things? Try the opposite of that and see if you get opposite results.
Well, here's a little saying. Most people go time would tell, but
Mhm.
the tail end of that is time has already told you.
Over and over.
Right. So, but it's tough though. I mean, we keep smiles on our face, but it's tough. Somebody right now, hopefully you're watching this and hopefully it's giving you some enlightenment, easing you a little bit. But there's people, that's going through it, and those are phases. It's for me, it's the journey, right? It's always about the journey, not really the destination. Because you ever like go on a trip somewhere and you get excited, you're on the journey. When you get there, you're like, all right, what next? You know what I
That's
mean? Or you
true.
complete something and you like, all right, feels good for a moment, but then you like, what next?
Yeah.
So it's the thrill of the journey, it's the thrill of the hunt. And if you can keep that in your mind at all times,
Yes, Corey.
you
Yes.
know what I mean? If you keep that in your mind at all times, the heart is gonna make sure you good,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know?
good.
So
Just saying.
yeah, so we just wanted to, another conversation with KWK and Tafari. Um, you know, more to come.
Oh
More
yeah.
thoughts, more guidance, you know, more surprises and more gifts. We're gonna get we're gonna get some guests on here really soon.
Mm-hmm.
And some relatable guests to everyone, right? We're gonna start talking to business owners and really, really carving out some of the conversations that we're having here. We
Mm-hmm.
just set the tone with the conversations, putting them out there, letting it get into the ether, into the air, and like I said, we're going to start bringing some business owners, some people on, to share their stories, give you some advice.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just sharing the wealth, right? I think it's a huge sin when you learn something and you don't share it. There's way too much gatekeeping going on out here when there's a world of abundance, right?
Oh,
There's a lot for
absolutely.
everybody to get it. So, why not just go get it together? And, speaking of counsel, if you need the KWK show to be your counsel, let it be. And,
Mm-hmm.
and if you got any thoughts and questions, again, drop them into your comment section, or we're going to put up an email for you guys to shoot over. All right. And we will see you guys in 2 weeks in our next episode. You
See
got
you
any
then.
thoughts before we jump off?
Nah, just see what you can take and apply and watch how it impacts your life and go from there.
All
Stop
right.
running.
Stop running.